Big city lawyer Hank Palmer returns to his childhood home where his father, the town's judge, is suspected of murder. This is my review of The Judge. I was looking forward to seeing The Judge with my dad. Because to me, when I was watching the trailers for this movie, it looked like it was going to be an interesting drama type of movie. And I also wanted to see this movie because it looked like that Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall were going to have like a good chemistry together and be a good duo. And I can say that after seeing The Judge with my dad, that the movie was great. The good points. Like I said a few seconds ago, I was looking forward to the chemistry that Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall were going to have. And I have to say that that's the best thing coming out of this movie, which is the chemistry between the duo. Because they have really good scenes together, they have really good back and forth with one another. And it really just shows like the acting range and their acting chops that they have. But I think that between the two of them, Robert Duvall did the best. Because even though Robert Downey Jr. did a fantastic job in his own rights, I just saw something special that was in Duvall that I think Robert Downey Jr. didn't have. And I think the reason that Duvall and Downey Jr. had really great scenes together was because of the writing of those scenes. And really the writing of the father-son aspect of the movie, mixed with the court and investigation parts of the movie, made the main storyline of this movie great. And speaking of the main storyline, I think that the directing was at its best when it was focusing on the main storyline. Because there's a side story where I'll get to later, but for the most part, the main storyline is what made this movie great. But back to the directing. So I thought that the directing mixed with the acting of the movie brought the emotions out of the emotional dramatic scenes. Because there were moments in this movie where I was like, oh man, whew. And I was starting to get scoring me in my chair because of the emotional scene that was happening in front of me. And again, speaking of the main storyline, the editing was good for the main storyline because it moved the main storyline along. Another good point about the movie was the score, because when I was listening to the score, like I didn't realize that first, but then I was like starting to hear music, and I was like, that's really good music from this movie. And I thought it was interesting because it sort of sounded like something that you wouldn't really hear from this type of movie. And the final good point I have to say is that the movie does have good use of comic relief. The bad points. So before I was talking about the side story of this movie a little bit, and yeah, that's the one thing that I did not like about this movie was the side story. And the reason I didn't like it was because it puffed up the movie too much and it made it too long. And it really didn't serve any purpose in the movie. It didn't flesh out any of the characters that were involved with the main storyline, and it didn't really tie in at all with the main storyline. Also, when the movie was transitioning between the main storyline and this side story, I thought it didn't transition well since I thought the two stories didn't really fit together well. And like I said, it made the movie too long, so if you had this part cut out of the entire movie, it wouldn't change a thing at all. And that's the one thing I didn't like about the editing as well, which is the fact that they didn't cut out the side story since it didn't really help anything at all with the main storyline. It didn't flesh out anything and it didn't tie in anything at all. So like I said, I saw this movie with my dad. My dad gives this movie a 3.5 out of 4 stars. And that's the same rating that I'll give it, a 3.5 out of 4 stars. I don't really think you need to see this movie now, but once it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray, you should definitely go and rent it and go and watch it because it's a great movie in my opinion. With a great chemistry between Duvall and Downey Jr. and a great storyline that goes along with their great chemistry. But like I said, the one thing that I hate about this movie was the side story since it didn't tie in at all with the main storyline and it served no purpose. And don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything, so that was my review for The Judge. Hope you guys liked it, and other than that guys, that's it.